Welcome to the Daily Combat Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Stockbridge, and joining me as co-host today, we've got Isabella Rossitano.
What's up?
We've got Matt Hollywood Connolly, and we've got Jordan Biggie Steffens. Fantastic. And so thanks so much for joining us. This is our very first of what we hope will be many podcasts covering all things combat sports. And of course, Jordan, you're our feature athlete today. We were talking off air just a little bit ago about injuries in the strongman field. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about your journey in strongman. Tell us how you got into it and tell us where you're at with strongman right now.
Mate, you are scraping the bottom of the barrel if this is the type of athlete that you're looking for, that's for sure. But no, look, I guess my career has been quite a long one in the sport. Started at Flinders University wrestling, amateur wrestling, through my sort of junior years, through 13 through to about 15. Got scouted for weightlifting at the Institute of Sport here, SASI. Took up weightlifting from about 15 through to about 27. But in that time, I also switched between weightlifting and strongman. Strongman, I started at about 17, 16 years old, so quite young.
Yeah.
And then worked through my career doing weightlifting and strongman mainly. And got some very good opportunities to travel overseas, compete for my country in both strongman and weightlifting. Been very blessed to work with some of the best athletes in the world. Some of the best sort of performers in the world, travel to Russia a lot. And, just again, very lucky to have the career I've had to compete at the highest levels. And then now I guess I've sort of come closer to the end of my career and have moved away. I retired in Russia a few years back. And then now coach the next generation of guys coming through because I think it's their turn to do some of the hard yards and leave me to deal with my old man injuries, which, just happen in time. So, like I said, I'm into the coaching role now and enjoying that thoroughly.
Fantastic. And so tell us a little bit about the state of strongman in the world right now.
I guess for me, I stepped away in about 2017 from competitive strongman. I moved into the world of circus strongman into performing rather than competing.
Is that where the moustache comes in?
Yeah, exactly, mate. I didn't do mine up. Yours looks absolutely tremendous, and I feel like a bum, like I've just rolled off the street. So, yeah, I've sort of stepped away. So I keep tabs on the next generation of guys coming through. Here in Australia, we have the old guard, who's a friend of mine named Luke Reynolds. He's one of the only guys left sort of from my period of time. But there's some guys coming through, a guy by the name of Mitchell Hooper. He was here in Adelaide a week and a bit ago. He actually took a record of mine that was there for 6 years. No, it's good. It needs to be broken. It was there for 6 years. It was just there for way too long. He lifted a stone that was 220 kilos while our record was 213. It stood for 6 years. Many guys had tried. Mitchell had reset it. But the most amazing part about this is in this competition, he deadlifted the Australian record before doing this. He deadlifted 435 kilos.
No.
He attempted 455 and just missed it.
Wow.
But the part that blows your mind is he's 25 years old. He's been in the sport for 1 year.
Wow. Incredible.
He is the next generation. And this is when you ask about where the sport is now. The generational change going forward is just astronomical. These are things that I could have never dreamed of doing, even at my best. And it's so cool for me to sit back and watch this next generation come through, breaking the records that I set or we set as a group, 5-6 years ago. The next generation of guys, especially like Mitchell, he's going to take Australian Strongman to that next level. He really will. But guys like Luke Reynolds who have been around are not making it easy for him, and that's the real cool thing too. I can see the guys I competed against for 10 years still, making it hard for these guys to go through. So there's a nice little, generational change of guard, but there's still nice to see the old guys are still pushing as well. So Australian Strongman is looking stronger. The world level is, I guess, like anything, in a little bit of turmoil due to that global bastard going around at the moment. On the world scene, there's so many young guys. A guy named Tom Stoltman from Scotland, him and his brother Luke, the two strongest brothers in the world. Tom attempted a 300-kilo stone lift, which is just not normal.
Phenomenal.
Novikov, who's the top Ukrainian young kid, like 25 as well, won World's Strongest Man last year. I pick him as the favourite again this year. It's really cool to see the next generation of guys, but, there's a lot of positive things going forward. Absolutely.
And is that a matter of athletes? So you were mentioning you kind of grew up in the sport in some respects, but that next generation that are coming through, are they crossing over from other sports into strongman now?
I believe there is a crossover as well, but I believe things are just easier to be found. So I guess not saying I had it hard or anything like that, but when I sort of started, I was training at one gym at the Institute of Sport here for weightlifting. There was only one strongman gym. To find out details, you learnt it from the guys previous to you. You learnt it from your mentors, or if you were lucky enough to compete around the country, you learned it from your peers. When I started in Australia, there was maybe 30 guys, maybe 20 Australia-wide competing. Now you get 30 people at one comp. You get 30 girls at one comp or 30 guys at one comp. You know, there's just so much to be drawn from. Social media's made it so much easier to learn type of stuff and just outreach to people and learn that type of stuff, which is fantastic. So I believe that's one thing. But like anything, I think generationals just get better and better and better, bigger, stronger, faster. So I believe there's I think it's more ready knowledge and stuff like that. There's more gyms that train strongmen. You can get your hands on equipment a lot easier. So there is some good positives to come out of that as well.
Yeah, so it's a matter of it's not such a subculture anymore. It's something that's kind of seeping through into the mainstream.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I first started, it was a very underground sport, kind of like how arm wrestling and everything like that is quite an underground type thing, but it's now starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger and gain traction. You go to any gym and somebody will tell you they're a strongman. Yeah. Or that type of stuff, or, any bloke in a pub can do an arm wrestle, right? Like it's that type of scene. But it's going to get to the point where it's just getting more and more and more, and more people are doing it. So that pushes each other up. It's like anything. If you have a training partner or someone you work with, you get better, they get better, you get better, they get better. And that just keeps going on and keep going on. Yep. And I believe that's what's happening. The more there is, the more higher level there is. Of course, you're going to have more down low level guys, but it can push up the top level guys a fair bit as well.
Yeah, we were talking just before about unfortunate arm breaks in arm wrestling and how strong men can. That's been a thing just recently. So injuries. Tell us about some of those.
I'm glad you guys haven't suffered anything too major, right, in your careers so far.
Nothing too bad yet.
Touch wood, yeah. There you go, touch wood. Well, we've had a little bit of a something with yourself as well, but I guess it's one of those things. I'm not 21 anymore. I'm 31 now, turning 32. So I always thought I'd go through my career with no injury. I always thought I'd go.
Why would you think that?
Because I was young and dumb, that's why. It was just one of those things, I went through my career as a lifetime drug-free athlete. I was clean my whole way through my career. I always thought, well, it's the guys that take performance-enhancing supplements that they're the ones that get injured. Tendon snap because muscles growing too quickly for the tendons to handle.
Yeah.
But I started at 13. I started serious training at 13 years old. So my training years are in excess of 99.9% of people by the time they end their career in their 40s. And I'm only in my early 30s. So I ruptured my left bicep off leading into the fringe in 2018, 2019, which sucked, but I was still able to do the fringe, which was great. I was attempting an Australian record in training because...
that's what you do.
Dick swinging, stupidity, big ego, typical male, right? So it's just one of those things. So I ruptured the left bicep off doing that. Rehabbed really well, got back in, did the fringe, came through that really well. COVID came, ruined the world. Then we went through into, hopefully don't get demonetized because of that. I didn't say that, I swear.
Sponsored by COVID.
Yeah. And we came back into this year. I was doing a lot of stuff at the fringe this year, working with RCC, doing strongman shows there, upskilling myself with acrobatics and working with the best circus in the country here in Adelaide. Unfortunately, the story isn't even really that good. The first one
sucks.
The first, right?
Make something up.
So I was trying to pick up this car with one arm, but that didn't happen. That's a cool story. That's obviously not what happened, right? But it was the first one I did lifting 185 kilos. This one I did with a 45 kilo girl. Right? I know, it's not even anything.
I believe the car stories.
Stick with that one then.
You won't do that. Okay.
So we had the girl up. We were literally warming up. So she was standing in hands. We were switching between hands. So she'd have 2 feet in one hand, laying on the ground just to warm up wrists, warm up arms. Unfortunately, we've lost a little bit of contact. She's tipped. I've freaked out, gone to catch her. but she's caught herself. And unfortunately, my arm was pinned under the ground and she's come down straight on top of my forearm, which has popped the bicep off. Now, she was devastated and she is the most sweet, lovely girl. And, you know, we heard it pop. I knew it happened. I saw it and went, yeah, that's bicep rupture. She was in tears. I said, look, it happens. That is just the life of an athlete. I said, you know, she's torn her ankle off doing cheerleading. Like she ripped it apart. She's got no ligaments left in her ankle. I said, it's the exact same thing. You can't blame someone else for that happening. It could have been so much worse. Yeah. She could have come down on my pec and tore my pec off. She could have come down on her head and broken her neck. It could have been so many worse things that happen. A ruptured bicep is bad, but it's something I've come back from once and I'll come back from again. So it was just one of those things where injuries happen in sport. Like you said, how could I think my whole career I was going to be injury-free? But that was just because I thought I was going to be and I was young. But now the older I've gotten, the more I've learned and to understand that injuries happen, but it makes you better when you come back. You understand how to come back, but you also understand from a coaching point of view. So dealing with athletes that have injuries, dealing with the mental side of it. It's mental, not physical. As soon as it's reattached, it's just healing. It's how you wake up every morning in a sling and go, how do I make my day worthwhile? Yeah. How do I go about keeping myself motivated? And how do I just come back and go, okay, I'm going to hit the ground running at 12 weeks because that's when I'm allowed to go. And then what am I going to be doing in 12 weeks' time and making sure everything's set in place. So when you hit 12 weeks, you're off and running. So it's mental more than anything else. With any injury, knee, back, doesn't really matter what it is. You can come back. It's just about how you grasp it through that 12-week period. And you have ups and downs. There was days I hated life. But you just know there is going to be an end period.
100%. 100% agree. Yeah,
absolutely. Did you say you were squatting in the gym the next day after the tear or something?
Yeah, so I did take a day or two off. I would have gone back the next day if I was allowed to, but I went back in the gym a few days later, got the safety bar squat out because he's got the handles here, so I just chuck one hand and then just start squatting, which is funny because I'll tell you now, because I was squatting this whole time, I've developed knee tendonitis in my left knee. God. So before I came here today, I was getting dry needling done on my knee because there was a little bit of tendonitis issue and a little bit of fraying of the tendon. So I am truly an old man.
So you say old man, but you're 31. Is that old in strongman? Is that no?
No, Mark Felix, 55 years old, just broke a world record in the UK.
Right,
just
wow.
Deadlifted 515 kilos.
Oh,
wow. 515 or 555 off of a high bar.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Mark started in his late 40s, mid-40s. He started and made World's Strongest Man multiple times.
Wow.
A true just icon to us because he's in those senior years but still hanging with the best guys in the world.
Yeah.
So Mark is unreal. Good guy. Again, personally, never got the chance to compete with him. I would have loved to. I heard so many good stories. But just an absolute machine. So guys are sort of in their peaks from their late 20s through to sort of mid-30s.
And do you feel you peaked early because you started training
Absolutely.
so early? It's just wear and tear?
I believe it's my training years that have come up so quickly, but also my passion changed as well.
Okay.
My biggest thing chatting to people is I like to say I've won a hell of a lot of competitions, but I've lost a hell of a lot more. Yeah. I can go home and see a shit ton of trophies on the stage and on my wall. But again, it's now the point of going, okay, you get to a point in your career where winning isn't everything anymore. And I got to the point where I was doing competitions where I had more fun playing up to the crowd and seeing the crowd's interaction with me than actually winning a competition. Like a trophy's great. Don't get me wrong, we all want to win. There is still a deep down inside of me where I see things and go, I reckon I still win that if I had a crack at it. But, the winning side just got to a point where it didn't mean anything anymore. There was the connection to the crowd that I enjoyed more. That's why I moved from competitive strongman to performance-based strongman into the circus, into performing, into that type of stuff.
So as a crossover essentially here, so you've gone from that competition work to now entertainment as much as anything.
I found it that I was more entertaining than I was ever good at actually doing anything. I seem to enjoy just being there in the moment. The amount of times I'd go to competitions, and I remember the Arnold Classic 2015 and 2014, a girl came to watch me compete and I spoke to her in the crowd and her dad, And she came back every year to the Arnolds to watch me compete every year, and she'd get a photo with me every year. And that meant more to me than winning by a mile. That was just such a cool thing. You know, her dad would message me going, "Are you coming to the Arnolds competing this year?" You know, just because.
I'm glad you said that because she's here now. No, she's not.
Door number 3.
Yeah, she not put me on the spot, man. God damn. Yeah, it's just one of those funny things where I just get so much more enjoyment. You know, people, a lost art form in strongman is people think strongman is just about your show and that's it. People need to come and understand that people are coming to pay to watch you do a show. So you need to give something back. There's big sponsors, big money, and you need to, I believe, look the part, act the part, as well as, you know, perform in the end.
Yep.
So I just believe there's a lot of little things that people don't really think about. You go to a competition and watch someone that's just boring as, you watch them do something and you just go, yeah, they're really strong. That was really impressive, but you know, you don't get a feel
engagement.
and touch or engagement with that person.
Absolutely.
You know, just having that engagement, that attitude, you know, and a good attitude too, just makes a massive difference to a show. And promoters and people like that will notice that type of stuff too.
I think it's hard for an audience, especially when they're watching a strongman competition and they can't really relate to how heavy that thing is. It's like it looks really heavy, but you know, with the difference between 400 kilos and 500 kilos to the average person, they don't know. It's like it looks heavy and then it looks heavy again.
They can't quantify it.
That's it. And that's always the biggest thing that a lot of young guys that I try and work with to teach them is that, yeah, once it's 400 kilos, no one knows what 400 kilos really feels like.
Yeah.
And you've got to understand that sometimes doing a show, especially, not to always try and kill yourself every show because it doesn't just, you're going to ruin your own health and people in the crowd aren't going to understand the difference. So if I pulled a truck, people are going to freak out because I pulled a truck. Just because, like, I put, you know, 10 more things on the back of it, they're just going to go, well, he's still pulling a truck. Like, people don't necessarily understand that. Less likely, again, probably with a truck, you can see that difference of size. So it would make a bit of a difference with a truck. But if I was to say carry a yoke with weights on either side, they're just going to look at it and go, well, there's just a lot of weight.
A lot of weight.
I could put 300 kilos on there. I've done shows, say I did Medieval Festival a few years back where I lifted stones at Medieval Festival. Painted my face blue, did the whole Braveheart thing, shirtless, kilt on, blah, blah, blah. And the stones are up to about 150. To your average punter, that's like a fridge. I'm basically lifting a fridge.
Yeah.
To all the other strongman guys, like, Jordan, we've seen you do 213 kilos. Why don't you go that heavy? I'm like, well, I don't need to go that heavy. I don't need to. I don't need to risk injury to go that heavy. The crowd would have gone ballistic no matter what way I did it. And I didn't run through the stones. I walked through it. Could I have run through it? Absolutely. But then the show's over in 5 seconds.
Yep.
It's playing to the crowd. It's understanding what the crowd wants to see and understanding how you can make it the best, almost bang for them.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between, I guess, moving from a competitive mindset through to a show mindset. But again, when you get to the top level, to World's Strongest Man, when we did World's Strongest Man qualifiers, everything's based around television. So we were getting ready. We were all warmed up. We had a keg carry. So it was like a 140-kilo keg you had to carry as far as you possible. So we're sitting there. We're dead set, warm, ready to go. The TV cameras are setting up. Guys like, cool, ready to go. Yep. 10 seconds later, no, not everything's ready yet. Cool, it's going to be 10 minutes.
Oh.
So we had to wait there for 10 minutes. Ready to go? Yep. No warm-up. You go. You go. That's what it takes at that level. Everything is made for that television watching you, not just for you. And a lot of guys tend to, it kind of hits you quite hard. You sort of go, oh, shouldn't the world just revolve around me? I'm the athlete. Yeah. Well, no, because you're working for a TV show. World's Strongest Man's a television show. It's to make the best show possible for people to watch on television.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's a very different world when you get to that real top level to learn exactly how the real world works.
I think combat sport's moving that way. It's entertainment first and foremost for the public. It's the spectacle and the athleticism that's required to meet that standard is so high now that sometimes that's lost in the spectacle.
Yeah, I think you find the guys who really stand out like that, though. You find the guys and the girls who can do both.
Hmm.
And they're the ones that make the big dollars. They're the ones that people want to come and see.
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da.
And Matt, Hollywood.
I'd come and see
Yeah,
Hollywood
here we
every
go,
day.
right there. There he
Well,
is.
just go to me. I've gone nowhere. But like guys like Conor McGregor or guys like, that have the charisma and then the skill to back it up at the same time, see exactly what you're saying with that. And, yeah, that spectacle part of it is such an important thing, which we've been trying to push with the SA Titans, sort of the arm wrestling thing. It's like whenever I put the videos out, people don't know the level that we're at. We're club level arm wrestlers. We're not professionals, like we're not world class, but we try our best and we do a good job, and we have some strong guys there. But for people who are watching it on YouTube or seeing it for the first time, they don't realise that we're not at that absolute world level, but we are better than they would be. So it's still an interesting thing for them to watch. We make it interesting. We have the shirts, we've got the nicknames, we've got the interviews and trying to get these matches out and rankings and all that sort of thing that people can come and see and go, oh, I know this guy. Or people have turned up to the club, they know our nicknames, they don't know who my real name is.
And that's really good because that knows you're going in the right direction.
Exactly.
That's so cool. Really cool.
And people don't disseminate the difference between that 100 kilo Atlas ball and the 200 kilo one. They don't know. And similarly, they don't know the difference between say Devon Larratt's ability and maybe a club level arm wrestler. But if the arm wrestling's even and it's an even battle, that's the spectacle, and that's what people will watch first and foremost is the spectacle. They'll be drawn to that. It's like just any even race is always cool to watch. So tell me your thoughts on what the future of strongman is now. Is it moving in that direction of entertainment? That's going to be the home for
It all depends. Every different level has a different aspect.
Right.
You go to your grassroots stuff, it's more about, I guess that family type, everyone doing it, good on you for trying type attitude and just bringing everyone together for that type of, I guess, good feeling, right? Like everyone getting involved, kind of like your grass level football, your grass level type, that type of sport. So then you move up the levels as it gets a bit more serious. You sort of see athletes sort of drop off and that type of stuff as training gets harder. Of course, performance enhancing supplementation becomes a big thing at that point in time to reach the top level. So again, it's one of those types of things. It just sort of, I guess, like a pyramid, the numbers slowly get less and less as you get to the top. But that's like that in any sport. You don't see anyone just go to the Olympics, right? It's the same type of thing. So it's what I believe the people and promoters want to pick. So, these days more so than ever, they do have like a system in place to get to certain competitions, to build to levels of comps. And I think that's a very good way of doing things, kind of like what you're saying with the arm wrestling, building the ranking system and all that type of stuff. Strongman's starting to go along those lines. Still struggles on that sense because strongman, and this is probably going to annoy a lot of people, it's not a real sport. Sorry. It's the top level of...
You can say that.
Yeah, look,
I'm leaving.
And I'm out. It's just one of those things where you get to a level, World's Strongest Man is a TV show. Everyone hates that term, but it is. It's no different to like Who Dares Wins. It's no different to Big Brother. It's a TV show run by a TV company. There is a promoter. His name's Colin Bryce. He picks the guys to do the competition. No different to you going to Big Brother and auditioning. You basically audition by being fucking strong.
Yeah.
That's how you get your spot. And I think that's a good way of doing things because you can then cherry pick the best guys, but then it can be a bad thing too because then those guys cherry pick the guys they want as well. So there is, there should be guys at World's Strongest Man that deserve spots and there's guys that get to World's Strongest Man because they have a lot of followers on Instagram or other reasons. But that's fine too because that's the way the sport works. So you do need that crossover effect because you can get guys from other sports. It's like CM Punk taking up UFC. You need that crossover. That's going to pull the pro wrestling guys into UFC, right? So you do have that crossover effect. That's going to piss some people off. Me being me, I don't really care too much, but I can understand why it annoys guys that have been training for 20 years and they want a spot and they don't get it because someone's got more followers. But that's just the way it works. That's just life. So I do believe there is a better system to get to strongman now. But again, when you get to the top level, People the beginners and the newbies will get a very sharp surprise at how it works. It was a sharp surprise for me. The first pro show I did, the last event of the day was we were running late and they needed to close up for the day. They put me down as a did not finish, even though I didn't do the run. They said, you and another guy aren't going to do the run.
Yeah.
And I was fucking devastated. I went behind the chairs and just fucking sat there and went, is this really what strongman's like? Where you get to a level and because you're not quite as good as the top guys that were there, you just get cut loose. As I sat there and thought about it and as the weeks went on, I went, you know what? That's just the way it is. They pay for time. They pay for this, that, and the other. I wasn't up to the standard. That's life. You have to deal with that. If you can't deal with that, don't do the sport.
Yeah.
If you can't deal with being cut because you're not good enough, you know, there's other sports you can do. And then the next year I trained my ass off, came back and did all the events and did as good as I possibly could.
Yeah.
So it's a learning thing for guys when you get to that top level and, you know, the cream rises to the top.
Is there always that question mark in your mind when you're not using performance enhancers as to how much further could I have gotten or how many spots on the totem pole would that take me?
Yeah, look, I'm one of those types of people that I turn around and say I'm lifetime drug-free, which I am, but I don't turn around and tell people to believe me. If people don't want to believe that I'm clean, they don't have to. That's the part of life. You can choose to believe what people say or not.
Yeah.
All the top guys that I've competed against know that's the case. A lot of the guys choose not to believe it, and that's absolutely fine. That's their choice completely in life. But for me, you know, could I have gone further? Maybe. Did I? No. Did I get as high as I possibly could? Yep. Am I happy with where I got to? Absolutely. Do I know I did it all myself? Absolutely. Do I feel like I wasn't a sheep like everybody else? Absolutely.
Good work.
Yep.
But at the same time, you look at it some days and go, man, if I just did that, I would have had this role and I would have maybe made 10 grand or 100 grand or, you know, won a show where it was big money or maybe I would have gone to World's Strongest Man 5 times. Maybe I would have done this, that and the other.
Yeah.
It can be kind of depressing to look at sometimes. But at the same time, I can sit back and look at it and go, I believe I did as good as I possibly could. I represented my country as good as I could. I represented my family, my friends, my sponsors, everyone who has supported me to the best level I possibly could and left nothing in the tank or left no 2 biceps completely.
Nice.
And what a great ethic for all of those people that are now training under you to work within.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. You know, in a sport that's non-drug tested, I have no dramas with athletes using performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah.
No problem at all. If that is what the sport entails, if it is non-drug tested, you do whatever you want to do. It's your body, your life. You go as hard as you possibly can, but understand the outcome at the end of it. Understand the risks you take in anything. You run out in the middle of the road with heaps of traffic, understand the risk you're going to get hit by a car. Or you might not. You might get lucky. But at the same time, understand the risks, but also understand just because you take performance-enhancing drugs doesn't mean you're going to be good. And then understand how much of it you have to take to be good and what you're willing to risk to become good. Are you willing to risk health and well-being? Thor Bjornsson, I'm assuming you guys know the Mountain from Game of Thrones, did a massive write-up ages ago. Very, very interesting read, but he sort of finished it up with going, I could live as a normal human just doing random stuff, or I can take performance-enhancing drugs and live like a king and be treated like a king. But I could live as a normal person for a long period, or I could live as a king for a short period. Will he turn 40, 50 and be on his deathbed and think the exact same thing? Or, you know, what's going to be the outcome at the end? So these are all the things guys need to weigh up. And again, no dramas. If guys want to do it in a non-drug tested sport, go your life. It is what it is. But, you know, weigh the risks up.
Just like I've competed in a drug tested sport against competitors who have taken drugs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, it's really interesting and awesome to hear that you went your whole career without taking anything. Like, that's phenomenal. In strongman, is it like a lot of people generally do take?
At the top level, absolutely, you have to. I know guys who have become very sick because of it. I've lost friends due to overuse. There's a big difference between use and abuse. People have got to understand steroids and performance-enhancing supplements are good for health. That's why they have them for cancer patients, for burn victims. there's a bad stigma around a whole lot of it that tells people that it's just going to kill you from the get-go. People don't have that knowledge. They don't learn about it. There's guys, I can tell you now, there's guys who've been they've taken performance-enhancing drugs their whole career, and they've been extremely successful, and they're healthy still now, because there's a difference between use and abuse. But again, like yourself, I've been in that same boat as you, competing against non-drug tested guys, and you sort of sit there just going, well, is this really fair, and that type of stuff. And it's just one of those things where you just sort of, I guess, grin and bear it, and hopefully turn around and that one day that they get popped. But it's, there's a whole lot of things that go on behind the scenes as well with that type of stuff. And, there's plenty of times where I'm sure guys should have tested positive and they didn't, for certain reasons going the way they do. But that's just business, and that's just life.
They have drug testing in the sport then?
I can tell you a funny story of one year World's Strongest Man where they drug tested for like amphetamines and for all that type of stuff, and like a few of the guys got popped, which was hilarious. It's just one of those things where they don't test. They're very cautious on, like, whenever I did a big competition, I'd have to get my blood test done. I had to go get all that type of stuff, heart checked and everything like that. And I do that before any of the big super events, before pulling planes, trains, all that type of stuff. I go get my blood pressure's done and everything like that to make sure I'm not going to die or anything stupid while I'm doing
idea.
it.
Right? There you go. Let's all do that. Yeah, go on.
And then after, I'd get tested again to make sure that the levels had come back down again. That's just due diligence and using your brain. And they do that type of stuff at the top levels. They do take care of their athletes. Trust me, there's plenty of times I've seen the top guys, the promoters and that, sit down with athletes and go, dude, pull your head in, Or like, they won't let guys compete because their blood pressure's like 100 over 200 or something ridiculous, where they're like literally should be in hospital. So there is a lot more caution now. We did have a few guys pass away not too long back, enlarged heart. One guy died on the stage at a comp. Wow. So there is some nasty moments, but they are a lot more careful now, especially at the top level. It's the guys underneath that just don't have a clue, and they just gas up. They just don't think. And it's like that in most sports, bodybuilding. Yeah. The injuries at the top level in that sense are a lot less because they're a bit smarter. It's a lot of the younger guys, and they need to learn, and it's my generation and the generation before me that need to teach and understand, and also teach that you don't necessarily need to be performance enhancing athlete to be good or to make it to a certain level. You need to be happy in yourself and at your level. Don't worry about what anybody else does, because you can't control what they do. Yeah. You need to do what you do, not what anybody else does.
So I remember Tom Platz was saying, the bodybuilder, that steroids for him were like the polish on the car. It was you had to have the genetics, the hard work, the discipline, the motivation, and the years of hard training to get to the point. And then it was like, okay, now if you add in this steroids or these performance enhancers, you will get to this level. But without that first step, like, you're not going to get there. So
and that's a big thing the guys miss. Dorian Yates, very similar to that, talks about that. I think that's, everyone wants the quick fix, right? Everyone just wants, they want it now. I was always told if it was going to be what I was thinking of doing, was to do at least till I was 26, 27 years old before I even thought about taking performance enhancing supplements. My natural test levels till then were really high. Why would you need it? You don't need it at that age. But once you start hitting that age, then you can start thinking about it from getting into your 30s, and you can hold on to that peak a lot higher and a lot longer. Again, a lot of the guys now do it younger, but they learn right. But a lot of the guys do not learn right, and they just go, oh, yeah, I've benched like 50 kilos. Yeah,
50 kilos, I did more than that.
Around a trend should do me well. That's the problem. They see you out benching them and go,
That's it. There's the needles.
Yeah, that's it. And
I better stop doing that at the gym. No, anyway, so go on.
Make everyone feel bad.
Keep doing it. Keep smashing the bros.
Now, there is another reason why Thor might not make it to 40, and that's the fight coming up with Eddie Hall. What, from a purist perspective, what are your thoughts? And from that spectacle, sports entertainment perspective, what are your thoughts?
I think you and me had this conversation at the arm wrestling when you came to Seoul, but I come from a purist background. I came from a wrestling background. I came from an amateur wrestling background, so I do understand the fight game as well. I understand the aspect of entertainment as well, and I understand if I had a multi-million-dollar paycheck, what I'd do too. I'd be more than happy to take a few punches to the head for that. But at the same time, from a purist point of view, I do think they're making a slight mockery of what we do. I think they're making a slight mockery of what boxing is.
Yeah.
I think they should have more respect for the guys who do the hard yards.
Feel bad for asking now.
No, don't feel bad, because I've had so many people ask, because again, I've competed against both those guys too.
Yeah.
So I do know them both well enough. Again, if I was put in the same position where I was to have a boxing match with another professional, if I was at their popularity level around the world, what would I do? I'd probably take the money and take the fight. You can't answer it until you're in those shoes. Now, sitting here, I'd go, well, God, they're just going to look like two walruses hitting each other. It's going to be the fucking worst.
That actually sounds like a great thing to watch.
That's the undercard.
I'd rather watch the walruses. It's just one of those things. It's not going to be a technical fight. They're just two knobheads punching each other.
But will you watch it? Will you watch it?
I probably will. I don't want to watch it, but I will.
So you won't pay for the pay-per-view, but you might go to
pay-per-view,
somebody's
yeah.
house. That's the pay-per-view.
You know what?
Let's all go to the pub.
I just hope one of them just connects with one out of nowhere and knocks the other one the fuck out. I don't.
So do you have a prediction?
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Yeah. Who's
Look,
your money on?
I didn't box or anything like that when I was younger, but I got a lot of friends that box. And, you look at it from a purist point of view. Ed Hall was a bouncer for years, typical English boy, boxer when he was younger, athlete as younger. So, he probably got the edge on just ability, because he's just I'd say he's a hard nut. There's no doubt about that. Like I said, English boy, bouncer for years, can go. Technically cannot go, but just tougher. He's done a lot more training boxing in the last years than I have, so I probably wouldn't, try and size up to in a boxing match with myself. But Thor's taller, longer reach. That's what everyone's saying. He's, he
looks incredible.
Ed won't be able to get in close to him, blah, 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 blah. But my theory is Thor is still he's still not that tough, hard-nosed Ed Hall. I feel he's still got that movie star attitude where he just doesn't have that grit that Ed has. Ed's just got that grit that'll go through Thor's punches and just, I feel like he'll end it. I believe Ed will win the fight because he's just a tougher guy, better athlete in that sense. He's just got a better mindset, in my opinion. Thor just has the reach advantage and has had two, exhibition fights.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I know how those exhibition fights went. Let me pay you so you don't knock me the fuck out. Because he fought an English guy recently, boxer, like an actual boxer who's like 22 fights, 3 losses, 17 wins, or whatever it was, and one even. Mate, if that guy wanted to take him seriously, he was going to knock Thor out in the middle of the ring in the first goddamn round.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He just gave him that attitude to feel what it's like to be up against a boxer. So that's probably where Thor has taken an advantage in that sense, but I still think Ed will win the fight. I hope they knock each other out.
Yeah.
What do you think, Izzy?
Well, I reckon Ed, from what you said, but I wouldn't discount like someone being taller. I'd love to share with you all. I fought a 6'3" man a few weeks ago. It was a great experience. And going into it, I was just thinking of Mike Tyson obviously being shorter. My goal was to go in there and get up as close as I could and, just side body and get in up close. That was what I was thinking. So Ed being shorter, I reckon from what you've said, like especially English guys, generally they all do boxing. Growing up, it's much more integrated in their culture. And I would 100% just on that say he's probably got more experience and everything. It's a big part of their culture there. And I reckon that height difference won't be an issue. And you've said he's got a better attitude as well. And that's everything in sport. Yeah. What about you guys? We're going to have to place a bet. Let's start betting. Oh, wait. I don't know if I can condone betting. So, sorry, you go.
That's right. We'll do it in Bitcoin or something.
Yeah. That's worth nothing. What do I want that for?
Yeah, I think what you were saying before about the height and the reach advantage, I mean, you have to know how to use it. And if you first fight, or if you're emotionally invested and you're not thinking technical aspects of what you're trying to do, and your footwork and your distance and trying to keep a good jab and a right going, and Eddie's just going to bull rush him, step straight into his space and crowd him. I don't see Thor being able to have the skill level needed to be able to use that height and reach advantage. A lot of people don't seem to sort of develop that until quite, it's years of hard work and being able to use that. So many people go, but this guy's taller, this guy's got a great reach. Does he know how to use it? That's the difference. You guys a fighter like John Jones or somebody who knows how to keep that distance, no matter what somebody's rushing at him. He puts his hand straight out, like you are staying at that distance no matter what. I don't see the mountain as developing that skill within, what has it been, a year and a half, something like that. So it should be an interesting fight. I think my prediction is a decision, and I think after the first round, I think the first 30 seconds will be mayhem of craziness, and then they'll gas and there'll be a lot of leaning on each other and hugging and heavy breathing. So if there's not a knockout in the first minute, I think it's going to go decision, which most heavyweight fights tend to do, especially with guys who don't know what they're doing.
So is this what we were talking about, what you're doing at a club level with wrestling, they're doing with two strong men in a boxing ring? So it's everybody can pick a side. The fight's relatively even in most people's mind at this point in time, and we're all going for the spectacle. We're all going for the car crash. Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, you've got a story there. I mean, these guys have a big rivalry there. Eddie deadlifted the 500 kilos, and the Mountain came along and said, "I'm going to do 501," and I'm not going to. I'm not going to sit down afterwards or something.
I have no doubt these two have sat down behind closed doors and just nutted this out lovely, and much respect to both of them for nutting this out because they've done this so well, sucking everyone into it. But, yeah, like you said, this is going to be just the biggest car wreck, and I'm going to hate every minute of it as a competitor and as a lover of fight game. But at the same time, people are going to make some big money, absolute big money.
Yeah, well, if you're a promoter or if you've got two guys that, even if they're from another sport, and it's like, well, these guys are huge, they're big, strong people, they have a rivalry between each other. We want to see them compete against each other. With strongman, it's like, well, you're lifting the weight and now you're lifting the weight. There's no physical kind of, I'm obviously better than you. I physically dominated you. So to be able to go, okay, well, let's put you in a boxing ring or, an arm wrestling match or something where it's like, now you don't have any excuses. You are taking on his body. It's you versus you. So that's the sort of thing that they've created with that. And it's like, you can have them competing in a strongman event where it's like, okay, who's going to win the event by lifting the most or winning the race or whatever the event is that goes through. But when it's a physical competition and you've got two guys, it's like, let's get these two massive guys in the ring and they'll fight each other and it's going to be a proper fight. It's going to be a boxing match. So you can see somebody who's come up with that and gone, oh, there's an opportunity. I'm going to get these two guys that have this thing. There's a storyline there. We can promote it and get people interested in it, and people want to see it. It's like, oh, I'm a big fan of Thor. I want to see him fight, and I hate Eddie Hall, and I want to, So yeah, you have that story that you can create behind it.
Do you think if we saw Conor McGregor knocked out in the first round with Mayweather, whether we'd be seeing this fight coming up and others, including Jake Paul?
I've had that in the back of my mind this entire time. Mayweather, goddamn, and Paul.
Yeah. That's another step ahead. I think Tyrone Woodley's in the way at the moment.
I don't want to talk
Jake
about
Paul,
this.
Tyrone Woodley.
Let's talk about
this is exactly how I feel as well.
Well, you know what we completely missed? So we were all there just thinking about who's going to win this fight, but I completely forgot the fact that, this is the type of fight it is. It's a construction. Is it actually a fight? Is it going to be?
So that was going to be my question to you guys.
Yeah.
Is
sports entertainment.
Well, you got to remember this has been done in Vegas, right? So it's got to be under Vegas rules. So it means the guys have to get drug tested, right? Because they would have to if that was a legitimate fight. So I assume that this fight's an exhibition.
Most probably.
Unless one of those two guys wants to get a drug test, which I'll piss myself because if they can even pass that, there's a win for everybody involved.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming to do a licensed fight, you'd have to be under WADA or some World Doping Federation, correct?
It must be an exhibition. Yeah.
Because, well, what was Mike Tyson's?
That was an exhibition. That was an exhibition.
Because there's no way he's passing out to have a drug test either, right? You know, this is just what I mean. Like, people got to look into the intricacies of something like this too, because, again, like I said, I just assume that it'd have to be an exhibition.
So do we know the rule set? Is it 3-minute rounds or something? Or
30-second rounds so
30
he can
seconds,
survive.
that's right. 5-minute break between rounds. No, that's right. Well, heavyweights are always like that. Because of the power that they generate, you've got that sacrifice of you get tired really fast.
That lactic acid build-up
right.
is like that.
And, the difference when you got, the super lightweight guys, your straw weights and that, and they're full of energy and they can throw a million punches for non-stop. But, one of those heavyweight punches is just, it's a devastating.
Cannonball.
Yeah. Absolutely. And most of the time, and especially what I've seen in UFC, if it goes past the first round, it's going to decision.
Unless someone gets very lucky.
That's right. Absolutely. Because these guys, they've used all that energy and moving that big body around and throwing that much power or wrestling or.
Well, I remember Mariusz Pudzianowski when he moved out of strongman into MMA and some of his first fights. They were hilarious.
That was so funny.
He turned purple.
Oh, man. I was going to tell you.
His shoulders look like your hat. Like, he'd try and punch, and he's so big. He's just, everything's turning red and purple. He's trying to throw punches and nothing's happening, or he's putting up his guard, and because his arms are so big, he's like this.
Yeah,
the guy's like, all right, whack straight through the middle on his face. And you're like, oh.
That was one of the craziest things ever. He fought Tim Sylvia, who was a former UFC heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
So Marius won a couple of fights against some no-name guys. He fought Tim Sylvia. First round, there was a lot of grappling. I think that was Tim's game plan was just to grapple the crap out of it.
Yeah.
The second round, Marius literally turns purple. His body, his muscles are sucking so much oxygen. You watch
it's like a phantom suit.
And it's not an exaggeration. He is turning like a grape color during the match, and he gasses out basically. And Tim's just laying on him because Tim was out of shape at that time. Anyway, I think he ended up winning in a side control, and I reckon the referee just said, "Yeah, okay, that's enough." Yeah, this guy's gonna have an oxygen.
He's gonna die. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. Have you got something for the fight? Have you got a thought on it?
I like Eddie. I just think from what I mean, you can only go on the snippets that you see on YouTube, which but if that's the best information that's available compared to seeing Thor's form, especially in the last two exhibition fights, he seems to have no snap. Thor seems to really struggle to manifest that power into anything that's usable in a boxing ring. And when he's punching from outside, almost like this. There's no snap. Whereas Eddie, I think it might be just that muscle memory. I think those neuro pathways are really hardwired, and he moves like a boxer. He moves under. His body sings with his hands. And I think it'll be that coordination. I don't think there's any lack of power there, and I think Eddie can access more of the power in a boxing ring than perhaps Thor can. So that's where my money will be. I just find it funny. I just think of a good Simpsons moment there when Homer takes up boxing and punches the bag and the flies on it. That's exactly.
I haven't seen that.
You need to see it.
But wait, you go. No, you.
As soon as this fight came up that we all knew it was happening, every strongman around the world just universally put that up because they saw the guys punching, going, "That's such a big guy hitting a bag and nothing is happening." Yeah. So and then he hits the fly goes off and he leans into the ropes and deep breathes for like 30 seconds. That is going to be this fight for sure. Like so much size and strength to do absolutely fuck all. And so much hype. That's so much hype, so much attention.
Some Mo say, okay, so punching isn't your thing.
It's just amazing. The two guys are going to walk in the ring, stand there and watch each other and go, I'm going to let the other one punch themselves out. And they're just going to stand and watch each other for 3 rounds. Hopefully someone gets one.
Yeah.
It could be the best thing for boxing.
Right.
It's going to be a spectacle either way. That's what I mean. Jake Paul thing.
God.
That's where that's heading.
Worse.
Is
Why?
That's the idea, though.
So,
That's the
You're going to
idea.
see me angry. I better leave the room. But wait. I want to say I need to report back on the Googling I did about the rules. They're not releasing the rules about this fight, which is interesting, but they are hyping it as the world's heaviest boxing match in history.
Okay.
Yeah, but there are no rules to be found.
Right. That's always a bad sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say they both look the best they've looked in, forever.
Right.
They look amazing.
Thor's a freak. He's gone from 205 or 210 to 155. He's gone from looking like a strongman. He looks like a fitness competitor at 155 kilos.
Yeah.
He could walk on a fitness stage and look good.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, that shorter, stockier build, but he looks freaky as well.
He's ripped.
Yeah,
right now.
they both look great. Absolutely great. But
It's a good example as to when you take elite athletes and you turn their attention to something, how whatever it might be, they apply those principles to what they're doing. And both of them are downsized. Both of them obviously put an enormous amount of effort into their training. But what kind of spectacle we'll see is to be seen.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'll be fun. It's a fun thing.
I can't.
It's good for the kids.
no,
We're
it's not.
going to see more and more of this. But so this is very interesting because now we're starting to see the crossovers kind of meld together. So you've got Gallon competing. I don't know if that's for the heavyweight title, but it's against the title holder,
Right.
Against Honey. So you've got now you've got somebody who's crossing over from rugby, finding their way in, but I think legitimately paving a way. But now he's teed up the biggest fight in Australian heavyweight history, and people want to watch it. But I don't know if too many people would have wanted to watch the heavyweight title of Australia being fought on pay-per-view otherwise.
It's one of those things.
I'd
Natural
agree.
athletes can go between sports. Let's be honest here. If Michael Jordan wanted to take up boxing, he probably could take up boxing because he's just a
He struggled
natural
with baseball.
athlete. Yeah, I was waiting for that. I'm waiting for the baseball one to come out here. But let's be honest here. The guy came out and played baseball at a high enough level. He just unfortunately got smashed out.
Yeah, and
But-
at the end
he did
of
a
his
good job.
athletic career as well. You know,
But he was in Space Jam, so that's all.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that's important.
yeah.
It's the peak. Yeah.
Acting is similar.
Yeah, Hollywood over here. Of course you'd say that.
He was good. I've watched it with my kids. They liked it. He's very good. I think are they doing a sequel to that?
They are.
Yeah, Space Jam 2.
There you go.
Excellent.
You're
We're
excited.
We're up to date with all Warner Brother news
That's
now.
right.
Welcome to the Daily Combat Podcast.